From proto-metal pioneers who laid the foundation for every headbanger that followed, to psych rock warriors who cranked their amps to 11 before it was cool, to progressive rock bands that twisted their riffs into cosmic spirals. These are the 1971 obscure rock bands you didn't know about. The hidden gems, the cult classics, and the unsung heroes who never got their due, but helped shape the sound of rock as we know it. And one of them? They were so heavy, so raw, and so ahead of their time that they practically invented the concept of stoner rock. Comment if you think you know which song that is. Number 15, Dust. It's loud, fast, and unapologetically heavy. Dust isn't just a band. They're one of the first American heavy rock powerhouses, and they paved the way for punk, metal, and hardcore decades before those genres even had names. Their self-titled debut dropped in 1971, and it's a ferocious, fuzz-drenched blast of proto-metal power. The guitars are raw, the drums hit like a sledgehammer, and the whole thing rumbles like a muscle car with broken mufflers. Tracks like Stone Woman and From a Dry Camel sound like Black Sabbath on a garage rock bender. All thick riffs, howling vocals, and unfiltered energy. The band featured Mark Bell on drums, who would later become Marky Ramone of the Ramones, giving them a punk connection before punk even existed. Too rough for mainstream radio, but a cult favorite for those who like their rock raw, dirty, and full of attitude. And while Dust were laying the foundation for punk and metal, the next band on our list was about to crank up the volume, pound the drums, and lay down some of the thickest, dirtiest proto-metal ever recorded. Number 14, Sir Lord Baltimore. It's raw, fast, and completely unhinged. Sir Lord Baltimore isn't just a band. They're one of the first true heavy metal bands, a proto-doom outfit that hit like a freight train and disappeared almost as quickly. Released in 1971, their album Kingdom Come is a ferocious, unpolished, and thunderously heavy record that predates the speed and aggression of Motorhead by nearly a decade. The guitar riffs are ferocious. The drums hit like a sledgehammer. And the vocals? Howling, wailing, and completely unhinged. Too rough for the radio, too weird for the mainstream. But perfect for the metal underground, where it became a cult classic and a blueprint for every doom, stoner, and sludge band that came after. And while Sir Lord Baltimore were tearing up the rule book, the next band on our list was about to blend heavy riffs, symphonic arrangements, and psych freakouts into a proto-stoner masterpiece that still melts minds today. And you can melt our mind by subscribing right now. Number 13, Leaf Hound. It's raw, fuzzy, and completely unfiltered. Leaf Hound isn't just a band. They're a cult legend, a proto-stoner outfit that dropped one of the most sought-after records in rock history. Released in 1971, their Growers of Mushroom album is a feral, blues-soaked slab of hard rock that predates the stoner and doom scenes by decades. The guitar tone? Thick as a brick wall. The vocals, howling, sneering, and full of swagger, and the lyrics, full of twisted imagery and dark fantasy. It didn't sell, it didn't chart, but it became a cult classic anyway. A holy grail for vinyl collectors and a must-hear for anyone who likes their rock dirty, loud, and unpolished. And while Leaf Hound were laying the groundwork for every fuzzed-out band that followed, the next band on our list was about to kick down the doors of hard rock and laid down some of the heaviest, darkest proto-metal riffs of the early 70s. Number 12. Bang. It's dark, heavy, and unapologetically raw. Bang isn't just a band. They're one of the first American doom metal bands, a power trio that laid the groundwork for stoner, doom, and sludge decades before those genres had names. Their self-titled debut, released in 1971, is a lost classic for fans of Black Sabbath, Pentagram, and every band that ever turned down the tuning and cranked up the distortion. The guitar riffs are thick, the bass lines rumble like an earthquake, and the vocals howl like a mad preacher. Tracks like Lions, Christians, and The Queen sound like Sabbath on a bad trip. All dark lyrics, crushing riffs, and doom-laden atmospheres. Too heavy for the mainstream, too dark for radio, but a must-hear for those who like their rock loud, dirty, and full of attitude. And while Bang were laying down the heavy, sludgy foundations of doom, the next band on our list was about to crank up the weirdness, bend the rules, and push the limits of hard rock into uncharted territory. Number 11. High Tide. It's dark, distorted, and utterly chaotic. High Tide isn't just a band. They're one of the first to blend heavy metal, prog rock, and psychedelic freakouts into a mind-bending stew of distorted riffs and melting feedback. And their Sea Shanties album, released in 1969, is proto-metal at its most raw, unpolished, and unhinged. The guitar tone is thick as concrete. The violins shriek like fingernails on a chalkboard, and the whole thing rumbles like a storm at sea. Tracks like Feudalist Lament and Death Warmed Up sound like the darkest corners of the psychedelic scene. All jagged edges, unpredictable time changes, and chaotic solos. Too heavy for hippies, too weird for mainstream rock, but a cult favorite for those who like their music dark, strange, and a little dangerous. And while High Tide were warping minds with their psychotic soundscapes, the next band on our list was about to crank up the volume, bend the rules, and push the limits of heavy blues rock into uncharted territory. Number 10. The Damnation of Adam Blessing. It's dark, moody, and completely unfiltered. The Damnation of Adam Blessing isn't just a band. They're a Cleveland-based powerhouse that blended hard rock, psychedelic vibes, and dark lyrics into a brooding, unsettling sound. Their 1971 album, Which is the Justice, Which is the Thief, is a lost classic for fans of hard rock, early metal, and psychedelic soundscapes. The guitars wail, the vocals howl, and the lyrics cut like a rusty knife. Tracks like Driver and Fingers on a Windmill sound like the darkest corners of the psychedelic scene. All thick riffs, haunting vocals, and dark atmospheres. Too dark for the mainstream, too heavy for radio, but a must-hear for those who like their rock loud, dirty, and full of attitude. And while the Damnation of Adam Blessing were laying down the dark, brooding foundations of early metal, the next band on our list was about to kick down the doors of heavy rock and lay down some of the thickest, dirtiest proto-metal riffs of the early 70s. Number 9. Cactus. It's bluesy, brawny, and unfiltered. Cactus isn't just a band. They're America's answer to Led Zeppelin, a hard-rocking, bar-brawling powerhouse that kicked out the jams before it was cool. Formed by ex-members of Vanilla Fudge and the Amboy Dukes, they dropped their self-titled debut in 1970, and it shreds. The guitar riffs are nasty. The drums pound like a jackhammer. and the vocals howl like a coyote on a 3-day bender. Tracks like Parchment Farm and Evil sound like they were recorded in a smoke-filled roadhouse with the amps cranked to 11. It's dirty, loud, and completely unpolished. The sound of a band that never cared about commercial success. Too raw for the mainstream, too wild for radio, but a cult classic for those who like their rock rough, dirty, and full of attitude. And while Cactus were pounding out the blues rock riffs, the next band on our list was about to crank up the weirdness, bend the rules, and push the limits of heavy psychedelic rock into uncharted territory. Number 8, Stray. It's heavy, wild, and criminally underappreciated. Stray isn't just a band. They're one of the forgotten pioneers of hard rock, a British power trio that blended psychedelic rock, early metal, and bluesy riffs into a thick, thunderous sound. Their self-titled debut, released in 1970, is a lost classic for fans of hard rock, proto-metal, and fuzz-drenched guitar solos. The guitar tone is thick as concrete. The vocals howl like a wild animal, and the drums hit like a bar fight. Tracks like All in Your Mind and Time Machine sound like Black Sabbath on a psychedelic bender, all crushing riffs, howling vocals, and unrelenting energy. Too wild for the mainstream, too heavy for radio, but a must-hear for those who like their rock loud, dirty, and full of attitude. And while Stray were cranking up the volume and pushing the limits of early hard rock, the next band on our list was about to crank up the fuzz, turn down the polish, and lay down some of the thickest, dirtiest proto-metal ever recorded. Number 7, Blitz. It's weird, wild, and wonderfully heavy. Blitz isn't just a band. They're a power trio that cranked out some of the heaviest, trippiest, and most bizarre rock of the early 70s. Formed by ex-members of Baker Lou and the Jeff Beck Group, they dropped their self-titled debut in 1970, and it's a stoned-out masterpiece. The guitars are dirty and fuzz-drenched. The bass throbs like a slow-motion earthquake, and the drums sound like they were recorded in a cave full of bong smoke. The lyrics? Dark, psychedelic, and completely unhinged. Tracks like Smoking the Day Away and I Don't Know sound like they were written by acid-crazed cavemen with Marshall stacks. They didn't break through commercially, but they became a favorite among stoner rock fans and fuzz junkies who like their rock loud, loose, and a little unhinged. And while Blitz were melting minds with their psychedelic power, the next band on our list was about to crank up the volume, bend the rules, and push the limits of early prog rock into uncharted territory. Number 6, Warhorse. It's heavy, dark, and criminally underrated. Warhorse isn't just a band. They're a proto-metal powerhouse that pushed the boundaries of early hard rock and proto-metal with their thundering riffs, gothic organ work, and sinister lyrics. Formed by ex-Deep Purple bassist Nick Simper, their self-titled debut in 1970 and follow-up Red Sea in 1972 are must-hears for fans of early metal and dark, moody rock. The guitar tone is thick, the organs wail like a haunted church, and the vocals are full of attitude. Tracks like Burning and Ritual sound like the darkest corners of the early 70s rock scene. All ominous chords, menacing lyrics, and thundering rhythms. Too dark for mainstream radio, too heavy for pop playlists, but a must-hear for those who like their rock loud, dark, and full of attitude. And while Warhorse were darkening the skies with their heavy riffs and gothic organ swells, the next band on our list was about to crank up the weirdness, bend the rules, and push the limits of early heavy rock into uncharted territory. Number 5, Lucifers Friend. It's dark, dramatic, and unapologetically heavy. Lucifers Friend isn't just a band. They're a German hard rock institution with a sound that predates the doom and power metal scenes by decades. Their 1971 album, Where the Groupies Killed the Blues, is a cult classic for fans of early metal, full of crushing riffs, operatic vocals, and wild, unhinged energy. The lyrics? Dark, doomy, and dripping with gothic imagery. The guitars? Thick and dirty, like mud-splattered chains, and the vocal delivery? Pure theatrical bombast. They were too weird for mainstream radio, too heavy for the prog crowd, but perfect for the underground, where they influenced everyone from Candlemass to Ghost. And while Lucifer's Friend were cranking up the drama and darkness, the next band on our list was about to kick down the doors of hard rock and lay down some of the thickest, dirtiest proto-metal riffs of the early 70s. Number 4, Toad. It's heavy, raw, and completely unpolished. Toad isn't just a band. They're a Swiss power trio that predated the stoner and doom movements by decades, laying down some of the thickest, dirtiest proto-metal riffs of the early 70s. Their self-titled debut, released in 1971, is a fuzz-drenched slab of heavy blues rock that pounds like a wrecking ball. The guitars are gritty, the bass rumbles like a freight train, and the drums thunder like a mountain avalanche. Tracks like Cottonwood Hill and Stay sound like Led Zeppelin on a bad trip, full of crushing riffs, howling vocals, and unrelenting energy. They never broke through to mainstream success, but became a cult favorite for those who liked their rock loud, rough, and unapologetically heavy. And while Toad were shaking mountains with their fuzzed-out jams, the next band on our list was about to kick down the doors of hard rock and lay down some of the thickest, dirtiest proto-metal riffs of the early 70s. Number 3, Granicus. It's wild, unpredictable, and criminally overlooked. Granicus isn't just a band. They're a Cleveland-based powerhouse that blended high-pitched vocals, Zeppelin-inspired riffs, and proto-metal fury into a raw, unfiltered sound that deserves a much bigger audience. Their self-titled debut, released in 1973, is a lost classic for fans of hard rock, early metal, and screaming guitar solos. The vocals are high, the guitar's sharp, and the rhythm section pounds like a jackhammer. Tracks like You're in America and Bad Talk sound like Led Zeppelin on a speedbender, all shredding riffs, howling vocals, and unrelenting energy. Too raw for the mainstream, too wild for radio, but a must-hear for those who like their rock loud, dirty, and full of attitude. And while Granicus were pushing the limits of early hard rock, the next band on our list was about to blur the lines between psychedelia, punk, and proto-metal with a sound so unique that it practically defied description. Number 2, Jerusalem. It's dark, gritty, and completely unpolished. Jerusalem isn't just a band. They're one of the heaviest and rawest proto-metal acts to emerge from the early 70s, with a sound that predated the doom and sludge scenes by decades. Produced by Ian Gillan of Deep Purple, their self-titled debut, released in 1972, is a dark, sludgy piece of hard rock that thunders like a runaway tank. The guitar tone is thick, the vocals howl like a mad preacher, and the whole thing creaks like the gates of a haunted house. Tracks like Primitive Man and Hooded Eagle are heavy, menacing, and full of attitude. The kind of songs that rattle your speakers and shake the walls. Too rough for the mainstream, too heavy for radio, but a must-hear for those who like their rock dark, raw, and a little dangerous. And while Jerusalem were darkening the skies with their sludgy riffs, the final band on our list was about to drop a record so heavy, so complex, and so uncompromising that it practically redefined what progressive hard rock could be. Number 1, Captain Beyond.
Just remember underneath you, hey, just to see up there.
It's cosmic, complex, and criminally underrated. Captain Beyond isn't just a band. They're a supergroup that mixed hard rock, prog, and psychedelia into a mind-bending blend of riffs, time changes, and spacey lyrics. Formed from ex-members of Deep Purple, Iron Butterfly, and Johnny Winter's band, they dropped their self-titled debut in 1972, and it shreds. The guitars are sharp, the drums pound like a jackhammer, and the whole thing flows like a sci-fi acid trip. The songs twist and turn, changing tempo without warning, bending around cosmic solos and swirling vocal harmonies. Tracks like Dancing Madly Backwards on a Sea of Air and Raging River of Fear sound like Led Zeppelin on a bad trip. All psych freakouts and thundering riffs. Too weird for the mainstream, too heavy for the prog crowd, they became a cult favorite and a must-hear for deep rock fans. These were the 1971 obscure rock bands you didn't know about. From proto-metal pioneers to psychedelic warriors. From blues-soaked rippers to cosmic voyagers. These bands pushed the limits of what rock could be. They crossed lines, broke rules, and cranked up the volume to unforgiving levels. So which one still makes your speakers rattle? Which track defined your 1971? Drop your favorite in the comments. And if you want to keep the trip going, make sure to check out our other deep dives into 1970, 1969, and 1976, 3 more years that changed rock forever. Click one on screen and keep the music alive.